San Francisco Bay, heart of the Silicon Valley. Nestled on the eastern shores is the city of Fremont.
Fremont is a city of about 300,000. It's a suburban city.
I remember that when I first got here that it was unusual for us to have maybe one robbery a month.
On March 29th, 1998, all that changed. A brilliant mind devises a devastating plan with the power of the cosmos behind him.
It was shocking. It was an attack against all of us.
His target, the police themselves.
We believe the device was booby-trapped, specifically to kill law enforcement when they were responding.
America's top explosive experts in a race against time.
We were not coming up with what we normally would, the telltale signs of who may have done this.
Will investigators decode the bomber's secrets before it's too late?
Where's the next one going to be? You know, that's really what was going through our heads.
In the dead of night, Craig Steckler is woken from his sleep.
Stay there. Stay there. Stay there.
At his front door, a shocking discovery awaits him.
It wasn't until after this series of events started that the fire captain on the scene told me that we probably had a bomb detonated.
Craig Steckler isn't your ordinary citizen. Steckler is chief of the Fremont Police. On call that night is veteran detective Ken Bingaman.
There was portions of a device still on the front porch of Chief Steckler's home. There was a part of a watch, a timing device, some wiring, parts of a gallon container of fuel that was in a bag, and not all of it was destroyed on this particular device.
Arson investigator Dennis Moore is called to assist.
Basically, to me, it looked more like a firebomb. It's black powder explosive because it had paint thinner, I believe, and can paint thinner attached to it.
Despite being senior investigators, Bingaman and Moore are shocked by the bomber's brazen actions.
My first thoughts were that somebody was angry at the police department, and not maybe specifically at the chief himself, but because he was the chief, he got the device.
What was most frustrating is, you know, as a police officer, you live with the potential that, you know, you're going to be in danger, but it never reaches past the individual officer and goes to the family.
What the officers didn't know was that the Fremont bomber had only begun. Nine hours after the first explosion, a second Fremont resident makes a terrifying discovery.
Yeah, I came home from church and I went to the front door and there was a bag sitting on the porch. So I started to pick it up, and then as I looked in, I saw wires. And it registered, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this.
My wife came home, came running into the house saying there's a bag on the front porch. So I went out and looked in the bag. I could see the makings of a bomb.
the Alameda County Bomb Squad is dispatched to the scene. Their job, deactivate the bomb and make sure no one gets killed, including themselves.
We try to get into the mind of the bomber in terms of how the device was constructed so that we have some sense of how to render it safe to keep that bomb from detonating. In this case, we used a water cannon because it was a soft package, if you will.
The cannon fires highly pressurized water at the bomb. The water moves so quickly, detonator wires are knocked off before electricity can pass through them, causing the bomb to explode.
We wanted to try to keep it in its entirety. Having the whole device, we would be able to tell more about the maker of the bomb.
Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole!
Despite best efforts, the bomb explodes during the render-safe procedure. However, investigators do have one important clue. Like Craig Steckler, Bob Wasserman was also a Fremont police chief.
Here is a bomber that is targeting police chiefs. Those are leaders in the police community, if you will.
You have a current and former police chief, victims of bombs at the same time. It was really frightening, and who knows, maybe it'll start happening everywhere.
It was an attack against all of us, not only the chief. It was an attack against every officer that works in this department, and therefore every officer that worked in the state of California as well as the United States.
With police under attack, Special Agent Tom Atterbury from the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms joins the team.
Gentlemen.
Hello, Dennis Moore.
Anytime there's a bombing incident, ATF treats it very serious, and we immediately respond to assist the state and locals. Well, we first came to the police department and got briefed by the detectives and by the lieutenant who was running the investigations unit at that time. And we knew we had two, bomb scenes. We had one at the chief's house and one at the councilman's house.
Everyone just kind of brainstormed and throwing names up on the board, people that had past problems with the city, or Chief Wasserman specifically, or Chief Steckler.
Obvious connection, both police chiefs of Fremont.
Doesn't make any sense at all. Is there something that ties you two together besides being cops?
We were looking at things, perhaps maybe a former employee, a disgruntled employee, and also we were trying to find out any other crimes that might have occurred with either the former chief or the chief, that there might have been a suspect that was involved in that was perhaps held a grudge against them.
Investigators would soon learn the firebombs were only the start of what the bomber had in store for the citizens of Fremont.
Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole!
2 bombs have exploded in Fremont, California. Their targets, senior Fremont police officials.
Here we have Chief Steckler's house, firebomb.
While investigators focus on finding a suspect,
Wasserman, same thing, firebomb.
the bomber prepares to send a message of his own. In the Fremont suburb of Corte del Sol, a young woman lies sleeping.
The owner of the Corte del Sol home was a Taiwanese family who had lived in the country for about a year. It's a blessing that the daughter was upstairs with the door closed sleeping, and she was overcome by smoke, but she wasn't injured, and she got out after the explosions.
The $1 million home is blown off its foundation, a gaping 20-foot hole torn through the kitchen and family room.
And by the grace of God, that night, no one was injured or killed, but it was only because the mother and her son went to pick up a pizza that they ordered instead of waiting for it to be delivered to the home.
The most troubling fact, no one living in this house is a police officer. Now, every citizen in Fremont is a potential target. 15 minutes after the Corte del Sol explosion, Fremont police receive a bizarre call.
Fremont Police, 911. Yes, I found the number. It's 962 Costa del Sol and 44956 Vista del Sol. You will find there is a bomb in the house, and you should be out by 9 o'clock, and the police department will go boom.
There was a bomb, a live bomb, at a specific location just up the hill from Corte del Sol on a street called Vista del Sol. And the instructions were that this bomb was at this address and it needed to be got out of the house by a certain time or else it would blow up. And we went up, started searching the house, and started pulling crawl space doors.
Oh my God. All right, we gotta call this in.
And we found a live device. And at that point, we evacuated the entire neighborhood and called the Alameda County Bomb Squad.
What the investigators don't know is that the Fremont bomber has set a deadly trap.
We believe the device was booby-trapped specifically to kill law enforcement, the bomb squad members, when they were responding.
The only thing that we could do at that particular location was to deploy the water cannon to try to disrupt the firing train, and that's what we did.
Well, they try to knock out a certain part of the device to render it safe and make it inoperable. In this case, when they shot it, we believe that part of it was coated with picric acid. Picric acid is very sensitive to heat shock and friction. And when that happened, we believe that's what caused the detonation of the device, therefore being booby-trapped.
By coating the bomb in picric acid, the bomber had hoped to catch the bomb squad off guard.
That bomb on Villa del Sol, as far as I'm concerned, was designed to kill a technician. The way it was situated, the way it was set up. Fortunately, it didn't.
Another bomb explodes at a nearby water tower. No damage is done to the structure, and no one is injured. In a 24-hour period, 6 bombs have exploded at 5 different locations, and police have no suspects.
Where's the next one going to be? You know, that's really what was going through our heads. We really were frightened about where another device would go on.
Jupiter, the 8th house of death.
With cold calculation, the Fremont bomber plots his next move. Investigators follow up on their only concrete evidence, the shattered remains of the bombs.
Bombers are very intelligent people, so a lot of times they cover their tracks very well and plan things out well in advance. So it's a challenge. And our goal at a post-blast is to recover 100% of the bomb. We don't want to leave anything behind.
Bomb fragments are carefully identified and cataloged. Any single piece may hold the key to revealing the bomber's identity.
You know, a lot of people think that after there's an explosion that everything's gone. It's not. It's out there. It's our job to find it, and that's what we're specifically trained for during post-blast investigations, to find that evidence and submit it to our lab.
Explosive experts search for critical evidence in the blast seat, the precise point where the bomb exploded.
When a bomb goes off, we've got air now that's rushing outward with our device components being blown out of the crater seam. This positive pressure wave, as we call it, lasts for a very short period of time. Once that positive pressure wave diminishes, then we have a negative pressure wave. Now that's important because our lightweight components of a bomb is now sucked back into that blast seat. And that's why it's important for us to find the blast seat, because we know that a lot of our evidence is going to be there.
Evidence recovered from the crime scene is examined by forensic chemist Brad Cooper.
What I'm planning to get out of my examination of the evidence is to identify specifically the size of various types of pipes, the identity of what brands, for example, of watches or clocks that might have been used in a device.
Once identified, the bomb components can be traced to manufacturers and retailers, and possibly to whoever bought them. Working along with the chemist is a fingerprint examiner who checks the debris for impression evidence. Next, the debris is sent to a tool mark examiner. Like fingerprints, tool marks leave unique impressions that can be used to tie a suspect to a bomb. Despite the best efforts of forensic scientists, the bomb debris reveals little about its maker.
We were not coming up with what we normally would: the fingerprints, the tool marks, the telltale signs of who may have done this. And it was because the bomber had took great steps to conceal that from us.
Finding the Fremont bomber won't be investigators' biggest problem, but stopping him will be.
Fremont police sources say that yesterday ended with bombing the Fremont police chief's home, and another bomb at a former chief's house, bombing 2 other residents and a water tower, all within 48 hours.
A bomb placed in someone's home is an act of terrorism. And where you have this type of a terroristic device planted at someone's home and lights the home on fire with the people inside, that case has been classified as an attempted murder.
People were very jittery. They were very on edge, as they should be. There was this unexplained series of 5 bombings and 1 dud bomb found, and there was no apparent link.
What do all these victims have in common with each other? Do they know each other? Somebody out to get them? Has somebody made threats lately to them or called them? Or do they owe somebody money?
The connection between the Steckler and Wasserman bombs was clear. They targeted Fremont police chiefs. After that, things quickly grew murky.
What we were struggling with and what we were trying to tie in is how does this equate to this Taiwanese family? And then a booby-trapped device found at a house, 50% under construction. What's that owner's tie-in?
Appealing to the public, police set up a tip line, but the bomber remains one step ahead. He has consulted the planets, and they have told him to do the unexpected. Rodney Block walks into Fremont Police Headquarters and presents himself to investigators.
E01, how do you do? Good to see you. I have some information here which I think may be of interest to you gentlemen here in the police department.
He said he was away during the weekend of the bombings and wanted to make it clear that in case someone thought that he might be a suspect, he was dropping off his package of receipts to show where he had been and he'd been out of town.
So thanks for coming in, Rodney. I really appreciate it, but I understand you have something for me.
I wanted to show you that personally I'm not involved in this, so I brought some receipts with me to show where I was at the time that the bombings occurred.
The receipts placed Block in Anaheim, California at the time of the bombings. But rather than ease police suspicions, Block's actions only served to pique their curiosity.
Got a whole file of them?
I don't know, I've never had anything like that happen in the time that I've worked a case where somebody voluntarily returns to a city where we've had a crime, out of the blue drops off some receipts where they were. Rodney dropped us a clue.
This is my file that I've kept on the bombings. So listen, here, anything you want to know, I'm here to help you guys.
Well,
Police question Rodney Block.
What do you know? What could you help us out with here?
Well,
Realizing they face a crafty opponent, a unique interrogation approach is taken.
So, Rodney, about the bomb, what can you tell us about it?
Well, that's the interesting thing, you see. The thing about these bombings that mystified me when I first thought about it.
We were just stroking Rodney's intelligence and his ego, and basically Tom, even though he's bomb, he knows a lot about it, he was just playing like he was clueless and just didn't understand some of these terms.
We spent hours and hours building rapport with him before we started interrogating him, hoping that he would trip up and telling us something that only the bomber would know.
Okay, well, you're a pretty smart guy, Rodney. I understand you know something about bombs.
Yeah, I know a lot about bombs, actually.
Having gained Block's confidence, the investigators ask his opinion on how the bomb was constructed.
This case, and I'm sure it's occurred to you guys as well. How did the bomber move the bombs from point A to point B? And I've got a theory about this, okay? My theory is he used a modular bomb.
And at that time, Tony May was in the room next to us monitoring everything to see what he could pick out, but Rodney's what he was saying. And all of a sudden with Tony, it's like, that's it. That's exactly what those devices are. So he's telling us what they are.
Now, that was never put out in the newspapers or the TV or the radio. Only he would know that these devices were modular, that you could hook them up at the last minute, transport them safely, hook them up, and then the extended timers on these would count the bomb down. Only he would know that.
And I mean, here you go. It's a schematic drawing, but that's basically a modular, three-way modular bomb.
But Block proves crafty enough not to provide information that would directly incriminate him.
We haven't released any information on the fact that it was a modular bomb. So, is this a popular bomb or?
Well, as a matter of fact, it is a popular bomb.
Really?
You know, I'm just saying, if I were the bomber,
right?
I'm not the bomber, but if I were the bomber, this is how I would do it. Okay, this is how I would do it. I would use a modular bomb. And, you know, the guy who did it, well, he's a smart guy.
The interrogation and the interview was a roller coaster. I mean, we were buddies for an hour, and then we were screaming at each other for an hour.
Curiosity here.
Well, that's what I was hoping to do, was pique your curiosity.
Most definitely. Now,
well, listen, now that you've got...
So this was all a big game to Rodney. He felt that he had covered his tracks well enough that he could beat the police and beat the investigators in this case.
And that goes for you guys, too. Are you arresting me or not?
Although investigators have a suspect, they are powerless to hold Block, let alone arrest him.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
Investigators will soon discover that the Fremont bomber is their worst nightmare, a criminal trained in forensic science. Unable to arrest Block, police put him under surveillance and hope he doesn't strike again.
Well, the problem was that we didn't have any witnesses that identified Rodney as putting these bombs on these targets because he was out of town. He was in Southern California.
Investigators begin the task of building a case against their only suspect.
The first thing we did was we identified Rodney Block. Who is Rodney Block? Where's he from? What is his background? Once we started doing that, it was very clear that we had somebody that could build a bomb and had the level of knowledge and sophistication to build something like this.
The next step was to establish motive.
We began interviewing witnesses and friends and associates of Rodney Block. It became more apparent that he had a grudge against Chief Steckler and Chief Wasserman.
Motive established, investigators execute a search warrant on Block's home. Police make a shocking discovery.
Block collected every article or newspaper article or internet article he could find on police officers throughout the United States that were involved in some type of misconduct.
Investigators make several other discoveries, including electronic components similar to those used in the bomb circuit boards.
We found a lot of items that were, similar to what we were finding at the bomb scene, but no smoking gun.
There is one other important find.
He had videos on how to detect a surveillance, how to beat a polygraph. He knew and used a lot of the police techniques and investigation that we use today.
All the more disturbing was one fact. Rodney Block had worked for the Chicago police force as a trace evidence specialist. Despite an exhaustive search, nothing ties Block directly to the bombings. More and more, it looks like Rodney Block might get away with his crime.
Due to corruption and greed.
The hunters begin to worry that they are becoming the hunted.
You have to know that when you go home at night that your family's safe. And none of the officers, including myself, that were tightly involved in this investigation felt that safety.
With pressure mounting, ATF investigators pore over bomb debris, searching for a concrete lead.
Basically, what I received in the laboratory were cans and bags of debris items that were collected by the agents and myself, for example. And I would go through those bags using a stereo microscope, seeing if I could find small intact particles of explosive, also looking at the various fragments that might also be there to see if I could identify what they may have originally have come from. And in some of the items of evidence, I found a small circuit board that obviously came from the watch. One of the things I had noticed was the circuit board had some numbers on it. So I talked to the manufacturer and said, I've got this circuit board that's got these numbers here. Can you give me an idea as to what watch or watches this particular circuit board might have come from?
The manufacturer traced the circuit boards to one type of watch. A watch with a very interesting feature.
Guys, I got something right here.
What do you got?
The watch's alarm could be set up to a year in advance.
This watch is called the anniversary watch. And what makes it the anniversary?
Suddenly, investigators realize how ingenious Block's plan is.
Really?
Yes.
With the ability to plant his bomb a year in advance, Block made sure he was out of town when the bombs exploded. A seemingly airtight alibi.
Could have been there up to a year prior.
So our friend Rodney doesn't have an alibi after all.
No, it's all out the window.
Our laboratory determined that Casio made a watch that's called an anniversary date watch with 365-day countdown timer on it. When we determined that, when our laboratory determined that, we had to go back and rethink how these bombs got in there a lot earlier than we thought.
Investigators review the entire timeline of the case.
One of our biggest problems was how could he have gotten a bomb of that size, two of them, in that house without ever being detected?
They now theorize that Block entered the Taiwanese family's house during its construction. Using a mock-up of the bomb, investigators reconstruct the crime scene.
We went back out to the house, pulled the floor up, and we were able to determine that the device was confined to a set of rafter joists and were actually suspended up off the floor. And when we began examining the floor of this house to determine how that could happen, we found that just underneath the subfloor is a netting material that holds insulation. And that netting we determined was the perfect location for somebody to secrete a bomb underneath the house, between a floor joist, and even individuals that were sent in to clean this house or clean the subfloor of this house prior to any family moving in it would not have detected the device.
But why would Block bomb a Taiwanese family with whom he had no known connection?
Another family that Rodney had a grudge against, the Sadiq family,
Yeah, he's the guy who threatened me.
were initially supposed to buy that house on Corte del Sol. So he plants these bombs under the house, he sets the timer, and they're ticking down, every month. Well, in the meantime, the Sadiqs back out of that deal and they don't buy that house, and a Taiwanese family does. Well, by that time, the house is fully constructed. He can't get back in physically and get those devices out of there.
Block suddenly finds that his well-crafted plan has hit a major obstacle.
The walls are up, the doors are locked, he can't get back in to remove them, so he has to leave them in there. And the people that he bombed weren't even his targets. And that just shows you the level of ruthlessness that Rodney has, to possibly kill or maim innocent people that he didn't even have a grudge against.
Everywhere around him, Block saw conspiracies.
Rodney was frustrated. He spent a lot of money and a lot of time investigating frivolous investigations with no merit. One of his conspiracy theories was that Black helicopters were flying into the Fremont Hills, dropping off large amounts of cocaine and heroin and illegal weapons, and then these drug trafficking organizations were, going out and dealing in drugs and narcotics under the blind eye of the chief of police.
Officer, I want to speak to you. It's about a very important matter.
Rodney went to the chief of police numerous times, making complaints, and they looked into it. It was without merit, and they moved on. That frustrated him that nothing was done because he thought these investigations were very important.
Hey, you, real estate lady, Kate.
Rodney was also looking at the Sadiq family, and another one of his conspiracy theories without merit was that the Sadiqs were into fraudulent real estate.
I'd like my money back.
Excuse me?
It's crumbling. The foundation is ruined. Is it such an outrage to ask for my money back?
It's a house, for heaven's sake, you bought a house.
It's half a house. It's a house that's falling apart. Maybe you knew it was like that when I bought it, but I didn't know it was like that when I bought it. I didn't find that out until now. Now when it's falling apart, and I want my money back.
And that's why you bought the house after looking at it?
Listen, I don't like your attitude, okay? And I know what else you've been up to, okay?
Excuse me?
I know I've been following you.
You've been following me?
Yeah, I've been following you, and I know what you're up to.
Frustrated, Block decides to take action himself against both the police and others he feels are committing criminal acts.
You're not going to get away with it.
Rodney Block comes up with a vicious plan.
It was on a Sunday night at around 8 o'clock. Most people are home on Sunday night around 8 o'clock. It was a Muslim holiday when he sent these bombs to go off.
Block planted the bombs under the dining room, a place he knew the family would gather for dinner, and a place he knew his bombs would do maximum damage. Investigators have finally established links between Block and his victims. But they still need concrete proof he's the Fremont bomber, and getting it will require a bizarre twist of fate.
Maybe you're thinking that I had something to do with it myself, so, just to get that out of the way.
Having established motive, investigators begin tearing apart Rodney Block's alibi.
To show where I was at the time that the bombings occurred, here's a good one. It's from the Fairfield Inn. I was there on the night one of the bombs went off.
There was a lot of holes, though, in Rodney's story. Rodney couldn't account for close to 40 hours of where he was when the bombs were going off, but yet he could account for exactly where he was a couple days before the bombings and 2 or 3 days after the bombings. But there was a large window when the bombings were occurring that he could not account for where he was at, and he refused to account for where he was at.
Well, listen, I've given you some information.
Block's cell phone is critical to the investigation.
Why don't you give him your cell phone number?
No, listen.
We were also able to tell from the cell phone records that during the evening, just before the bombings occurred, he traveled north on Highway 5, 1 hour away from the motel he was staying at, in the direction back up towards Fremont. So we were able to determine exactly where he was when he made that phone call. And it wasn't at the hotel. He was headed back up towards the Bay Area.
Yes, I found the number, 96.
Police analyzed the 911 call that tipped them to the booby-trapped bomb at Vista del Sol.
That you will find a bomb inside the house.
We went back and listened to the tape. It was determined through the investigation that he used a voice modulator to disguise his voice. We could still tell that it was Rodney Block that made the phone call based on the way he talks, rhythm of his voice, the way he pronounces certain words.
With motive and opportunity established and Block's alibi negated, police finally make their move. But with no hard evidence, will they be able to convict the man they suspect is the Fremont bomber?
Fremont Police Department, you are under arrest.
Rodney Block is arrested and charged with attempted murder.
I know. All right, fine, let's go.
No, I'm not a bomber. I've never hurt anybody in my life.
Even from jail, Block remains defiant.
Yes. There is no doubt that the Fremont Police Department has initiated a set of actions designed to silence me.
Knowing their case is largely circumstantial, investigators must tie Block directly to the bombs. The job of identifying the bomber's signature falls to Dr. Brian Andresen.
And I was given the task to what's called retro-engineer. Take the board apart, identify the components, and see how they all fit together to do some sort of an operation.
Painstakingly, Andresen rebuilds Block circuit boards, revealing an ingenious design.
So the sequence of events appear to have been initiated with a watch which makes a beep into a circuit that could turn on a relay. And when the relay closed, the battery pack turned on through a spark plug the detonator. So this whole sequence of events was all set up in a modular way. And is also, you can imagine from the safety point of view, you can set up the bomb and at the very end have little connectors and you plug in your timing circuit so that it's safe to do this, so that you're not actually walking around with a timer that's counting down hooked to a high explosive.
Next, scientists must establish that the same individual is responsible for all 5 bombs. An obvious link was the fact that the same type of watch was used on all the devices, but there were other similarities.
Since we had 6 bombs, we took each bomb individually. And it was working through the bombs that way that we determined that we had 6 bombs that had similar components that were most likely built by the same individual.
Investigators discovered that the bomber consistently used the same components and techniques in making the bombs. Specialized connectors were used to make the bombs modular. A piece of each connector was cut away to make soldering easier.
Now, the way the wire was attached to the back of the Casio watch was the same way that the wire was attached to the spark plugs on the Corte del Sol and Vista del Sol bomb. Another signature that this particular builder liked, when he made wire connections, instead of twisting wires together and using tape, he would lay wires on top of each other, solder them, and then cover that with heat shrink tubing. At the search warrant at the house in San Diego, we found a fan that he had repaired, laying wires on top of each other, soldering them, and then heat shrinking those together, which was the same way he made connections to the wires in the bombs.
Without a doubt, the same individual is responsible for all the Fremont bombings, but there is still no hard proof incriminating Rodney Block. That is, until fate intervenes. While making a court appearance, Block is recognized by another prisoner. The chance encounter provides the tip investigators have been searching for.
Hey, I know that guy. I've seen him before. I know who he is.
This prisoner thinks he may have something useful.
Oh, yeah? What do you got?
Well, you know the guy you brought down earlier?
Yeah.
Well, I recognize him from about 2 years ago.
From where?
Well, I ran into him out of a storage locker.
Okay.
On 123 Vine Street.
Thanks, officer.
Police are about to discover that the Fremont bombers' deepest secrets are beyond their wildest imagination.
Yeah, let's do it.
Desperate for concrete evidence proving Rodney Block is the Fremont bomber, police gamble that a jailhouse tip will lead them to Block's secret lair.
We couldn't wait to get the door open off on the storage locker, but we had to stop and go through the proper procedure in case this was maybe a booby trap. I was hoping to find the evidence that we needed to show us Rodney Block was definitely our bomber.
A search warrant was obtained for the storage unit, and it was like a gold mine. There was diagrams of bombs, there was detailed writings, there was the exact same type of low explosive smokeless powder stored in the storage locker that was used in the bombings.
We found end caps of bombs with holes drilled in them where spark plugs were inserted in the end of the end caps.
What was really scary and really gave us a lot of problems was Rodney was planning on doing 3 additional bombings that he never did, that he had diagram plans for. One of the bombings was the Fremont Police Department. Another place that he was looking at blowing up was a financial institution in Walnut Creek, using a Oklahoma City type ammonium nitrate fuel oil bomb to blow that building up. And the third was a family in Seattle that sold him his house in Fremont and he blamed them because the house, he claimed, had a cracked foundation. So not only did he do the bombings in Fremont, he was planning to do additional. This is a very dangerous man.
Finally, investigators have hard evidence. Now they must link it to Block. Key amongst the evidence are several circuit boards found in the storage locker. Brian Andresen compares the boards with those recovered in the bomb scenes.
From the bare circuit board, one can find how people soldered, and it turned out, instead of soldering on the normal side where you have copper foil, individual actually put the components through the wrong side and soldered on the non-metal side of the board. All of the bombs and all the timing circuits were done that way. It was pointing to a signature technique that somebody had, which I felt was a beginner's circuit board technique.
Perhaps the most damning evidence comes from the hand of Rodney Block himself. Odd documents that no officer can decipher.
The most important thing, which I think made the case, was all of his astrology documents. We didn't really mess with them because we didn't know what they were.
Investigators turned to astrologer Victoria Fennell Hill for help in decoding Block's cryptic notations.
I looked at the documents and they were all handwritten, very complex astrological symbols and what we call glyphs. There were charts intermixed with English as well as the symbols.
A psychological portrait of Block soon appears.
He's a very intelligent human being, very knowledgeable, well-read as far as the darker side of the occult. You could tell from his writings that he was also very meticulous. He detailed everything from if he met someone to have a cup of coffee, he would set up a chart for that.
Block had relied heavily on astrology when planning his crimes.
He was interested in Mercury, and he wanted to wait and put the bombs down in September when Mercury was retrograde, and then actually have the detonation in March, several months later, again when Mercury was retrograde, because astrologers believe that when Mercury is retrograde that sometimes communications gets a little bit fouled up. There's confusion when it comes to paperwork. And from the documents, it was obvious that he thought that having Mercury retrograde would cause confusion in the police.
When finally decoded, Block's notes are a virtual confession.
Here he writes visions of rafters, and this was August 10th. Between Sunday and Monday, he apparently puts here at 4 a.m., August 11th, and that's when we believe he got the idea to put the bombs under the rafters or the floor joists of the house, and he put safe for me.
To a jury, Block's astrological writings are like a daily diary. Combined with the investigative evidence and the forensic science presented during the trial, Rodney Block is found guilty of all charges, including 2 counts of attempted murder.
I remember running out of the courthouse and immediately calling family members and letting them know over the cell phone that Rodney had been convicted on all counts and gotten the maximum sentence for his event.
And then when we convicted him, it was a load off of our shoulders, and I think off of the citizens of Fremont also. We had a very dangerous individual who not only did bombings, but was planning on doing more.
It has changed me. I'm much more guarded than I used to be. It's been a number of years now, so I'm becoming a little bit more relaxed with it, but I lived in fear for a long time afterwards.
I can't get inside Rodney's mind, and frankly, I wouldn't want to be there. But whatever was going on there is somehow this combustible mixture of his intelligence and his paranoia and his an almost obsessive-compulsive disorder focusing on these families and these details and all this interweaving of information just finally led to this 3-day string of bombings.
Rodney Block is sentenced to 37 years in jail. For investigators and victims, a 3-year battle has finally